This video is going to have a look at using the sine rule to help us work out the answer to a word problem. The sine rule states that side A divided by the sine of angle A is going to be equal to side B divided by the sine of angle B, which is also equal to side C divided by sine of angle C. So we can use any combination of the sine rule to be able to find the side length of a missing side or the angle size of a missing angle. So for example, we could use A and C and have A divided by sine of angle A is equal to C divided by the sine of angle C. When using the sine rule, it is important to remember that the side and the corresponding angle are opposite each other. So side A is going to be opposite angle A. Side B is going to be opposite angle B. And side C is going to be opposite angle C. So we can use this when we are working through problems involving the sine rule to be able to label our sides and angles to enable us to use the sine rule. So let's have a look at an example of how we can use the sine rule in a calculation. So the example is to calculate the height of a building. Kevin measures the angle of elevation to the top as 48 degrees. He then walks 18 meters closer to the building and measures the angle of elevation as 64 degrees. How high is the building? So our first step is going to be to draw a diagram. And in our diagram, we're going to have a building. And the angle of elevation to that building from a point away is going to be 48 degrees. So I can draw a triangle to represent the shape of my building. And I know that angle is going to be 48 degrees. And then I also know that Kevin then walks an additional 18 meters towards the building and measures that angle of elevation again, and that is going to be 64 degrees. So I can add in a second measurement, and that is going to be 64 degrees. And I know the distance between those two angles is going to be 18 meters. So what we're trying to find is the height of the building. So before we proceed, let's have a look at some additional information we can add to our diagram based on our knowledge of triangles and lines. So the first piece of information is I can add in the size of that angle there. And the size of that angle is going to be 180 minus 64, because I know that lines that form a straight line is going to add up to 180. So 180 minus 64 is going to equal to 116 degrees. So now that I've worked out the angle of 116 degrees, I can also work out the angle at the top of my first triangle, because I know that all my angles in a triangle are going to add up to 180. So 180 minus 48 minus 116 means that this angle up the top is going to be 16 degrees. So to work out the height of the building, what I need to be able to do is use trigonometry to be able to work out the height based on the triangle. And you can see here that we've got a large triangle around the side, which is a right angle triangle that I can use to find the height. Now, to be able to find the height, what I need to know is what is the hypotenuse of that triangle. So I need to be able to work out the length of the side of the triangle, which I'm going to call C. So if I can work out what my side C is, I'll be able to work out the height of my building using trigonometry. So to be able to work out the height C, I can then have a look at my first smaller non-right angle triangle, and I can see that I've got the opposite angle my C value is known, and I've also got another set of angles. I've got 16 and the line opposite 16, which is 18 meters. So I can use the sine rule to be able to calculate my C value. So using the sine rule, I'll start off with writing my formula, and I'm going to call the second set angle B and side B. So the rule is going to be side B divided by sine of angle B is going to equal side C divided by the sine of angle C. So substituting in the values, 18 divided by sine of angle 16 is going to equal to my unknown C value divided by the sine of 116. So now I can go ahead and cross multiply. So that's going to leave me with 18 times sine of 116 is going to be equal to C times sine of 16. So what I want to do to get C by itself is to divide both sides by sine of 16. So my C value is going to equal to 18 times sine of 116 divided by sine of 16. So using a calculator, my unknown C side is going to be 58.69 meters. So I can add that into my diagram. So 58.69 meters. So now I can go ahead and use trigonometry to find out the height of the building. So to use trigonometry, looking at my angle, I've got the opposite side and the hypotenuse side. So I can use sine. So to work out the height, it's going to be sine of the angle is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of 48 is going to equal my height divided by 58.69. So multiply both sides by 58.69. The height of the building is going to equal to 58.69 times by sine of 48. So putting that into the calculator, my height value is going to equal to 43.62 meters. So the height of my building is going to be 43.62 meters. So that's an example of how I can use the sine rule and trigonometry to help me solve a word problem.